Yes, karibuni. Let's start again, but it's well. So mambo ndio hii. It's my hope that unaendelea kupiga serikali ile pahali yuko, and we will keep on doing the right thing. Unajua, the right thing ni kupiga kasongo. So we have no option other than kupiga kasongo. Recho nyingi, karibu sana. So today I want us to explore ile mambo inatendeka katika taifa. Now that Gachagua responded effectively, lakini kuna analogy hata nilikuwa nikidiscuss na mtu sasa, na nataka msikilize hii story vizuri sana. Nataka mujue, and I'm sorry to say this, I'm saying this one with a lot of humility, and I do not want to verify any community, lakini there was somebody tulikuwa tuna discuss naye, the reason why hii maneno ya Kalonzo na Gachagua na story that wanacheka Raila Odinga sababu ni mgonjwa, ni sababu ya kitu inaitwa kulipa ndeni. Raila Odinga hataki kulipa ndeni ya Kalonzo Musyoka, because in rational form, nataka sasa, unajua saa zingine ni vizuri to think outside the box. Already sasa unasikia Raila Odinga ameitwa watermelon, ile ambayo imeshika. Then number 2, Raila Odinga anafaa kurudisha mkono kwa Kalonzo sababu Kalonzo anasimama. Kalonzo alimsupport miaka 15, 13, 17, 2022. Alafu sasa Kalonzo anasimama, alafu Raila Odinga anapeleka kura zake kwa Ruto. So ile kitu iko, Raila Odinga hanajua hakuna mtu atawahi amini Wajaluo tena. The same label they used to give Wakikuyu, hata wenye Wakikuyu hawezi lipa deni, in quotes, walienda na wakapigia Ruto kura, whether walipigiwa mariba, I don't know. Now, so kama Wajaluo courtesy of Raila Odinga watapigia Ruto kura na pengine Kalonzo Musyoka ako kwa debe, now the Luo community will be labeled as a betrayer. I'm not saying that Luo community I'm not trying to verify the Luo community. What I'm trying to say ile picha inatolewa ama inatoka. I'm not saying that we are voting as a community. I know still individuality in communities matters. Lakini so Raila Odinga anataka wakosane na Kalonzo kama hamuna habari. Ili Raila Odinga akikosana na Kalonzo, so Raila Odinga aseme mimi yule hata si munajua hata Kalonzo ningempea kura, lakini sasa hata amekuwa akinitakia kukufa. So badala ya tu support Kalonzo, wacha tu tuende kwa Ruto. So you know this dichotomy, ile kitu wanatafuta, because najua nataka tufikiria outside the box. Ile kitu wanatafuta ni ili Raila Odinga apate reason that he cannot support Kalonzo Musyoka, because kama Raila Odinga hasimami 2027, and this is what will happen if Kalonzo Musyoka atakuwa kwa debe. If Kalonzo Musyoka atakuwa kwa debe na Raila Odinga hasimami, Raila Odinga has to support Kalonzo, in quotes, sisemi ati in quotes, kurudisha mkono. Lazima Raila arudishe mkono. Wakamba walipigia Wajaluo kura mara 3, na hakuna vile Kalonzo atakuwa kwa debe na Wajaluo wanaenda kwingine, kata sio Raila Odinga. So that thing will destroy the fortunes of Luo community for the next like 20 or 30 years. So ile kitu iko na ndio nataka sasa wakereketo wa Kalonzo Musyoka waanzie kukua welevu. What there is Raila Odinga lazima make sure wamekosana na Kalonzo, ili wakikosana na Kalonzo hata kuwa na reason ya kumsupport. So that is something which we need to analyze very keenly. So Raila Odinga atatafuta barabara zote, that is kama Kalonzo. So that is number one. Then number two, Raila Odinga will try to make sure that Kalonzo is not the principal. So this is what will happen if Kalonzo Musyoka is going to vie for presidency. Kama kuna mtu atataka kumharibia sana ni Raila Odinga, because Raila Odinga hataki kuleta Wajaluo huko. So Raila Odinga, the sole responsibility of Raila Odinga ni kuharibia Kalonzo, and I want people to understand that. That was a bit advanced. So Raila Odinga lazima haribie Kalonzo ili asilipe ndeni huko, ili sasa aweze kupeleka Wajaluo kwa Ruto. That is hiyo ni circuit number one. Circuit number two ni hii: kama Kalonzo Musyoka atasimama, naye Raila Odinga itabidi asimame. Hata Ruto ataambia wewe Raila enda usimame. So kama Kalonzo Musyoka atasimama, Raila Odinga atasimama, ili hiyo kura ya Wajaluo ifanywe tu na mtu mmoja. So that is the theory which we need to understand very much. So otherwise it's my hope mmeshinda vizuri. Mimi nawakaribisha katika show yetu siku ya leo. Mimi sina story mingi, so mimi nimekuja, we do small analysis and I call it a day. So sijui kama Recho nyingi wewe unataka link nikurushie. Is there anyone who want? I was to host msimamo in the afternoon, lakini aliniambia niwache na niliacha, so sijui nitachukua lini. So that's what happened. So I thought that maybe tutakuwa na msimamo hapa, lakini hakuweza kukuja. So please, kama unataka kuingia kwa kituo, nitakuomba kwa heshima, link ndio hiyo, ingia kwa kituo, we can analyze that situation. Tujiulize kwa nini Raila Odinga hataki kusupport Kalonzo na amemsupport mara 3, na kwa nini anataka wakosane. So those are the things I want us to analyze. I want us to become a little bit analytical. So that is the only way in which we can make a difference. So kama uko kwa kituo, nitakuomba kwa heshima. So opposition tuko sawa, we are doing well, unless tujikwae. There are so many things which are working so well for us. So wacha nitafute kama kuna kitu. We have to defeat Ruto. Huyu kijana Lecho nyingi, okay, no, don't worry, it's okay. Hii historia nani na lakini nanifuatilia, hebu niwaeke Karish jana ametufurahisha sana. I need to put this.
Are you tired of flipping houses, inconsistent results, always chasing your next deal, and constant competition? Stop following the crowd. There is a
Okiya mbaya si mbaya. Ni moto si moto. Kwanza na Okiya mbele yangu makwa. Angekora shangira Ruto wera. Ni mbaya si mbaya. Ni moto si moto. Angekora mongi upiyaye. Ile atenda gitiana kya chukuru. Ati mwana athondeka gwa chukuru. Wananginate kumenya. Omunde no awetero mwana. Ni moto si moto. Ni moto si moto. Ni kwamba na pamoja atiriri. Ati angikorwo mungu we. Orati yuambia. Siao sinileve. Na ndoje wale ngombe noere. Wate mwenwa peke mbagua. Na kiendo mungu wengi. Na ndoje notange abondi. Na ni wati niliwambia we. Ni moto si moto. Ni baya si baya. Kwamba na pamoja atiriri mapa mwe. Kwamba na pamoja. Ati angele mauka wale wako karamba de makiwa ati mauka de empowerment. Medite ayudi ngiri mirongo ire. Kentire ale mawe ale milioni date. Na ngija presidential carpet. Ya milioni yagana. Na kioroge kando na ba. Milioni date na mwana yizo wito meka milioni kebao. Isi siya ukasiye gana. Na mwamite tukole manja maganu. Milioni 50 si atumeka mana lakini ndicho kilianza ngano neto na mamera makiwa 1 kwangu na kumoja milioni 50 ikitumika ndio mate manji wana mara ya kufika nambari tempao ni moto si moto ni baya si baya kwangu na kumera mliambire mwetere tendwi.
Yeah, that was one of the best speech from Karish. Imempea national visibility after kusema kila kitu ya Ruto ni fire si fire. Yani ni kukuchoma. It's not fire the way Kindiki put. So one of the best campaigns. I think huyo atashinda. Very good. Very true. I like it. So let's hear Tony Gashoka. He was interviewed today as I wait for different people. Let's hear Tony Gashoka, who is saying that if opposition wins Mbere, so he's talking something.
What happens if my dad starts Tai Chi tomorrow?
How old is your father?
He is 56.
Need to have a foundation approach to building a building. You dig the basement, you put the concrete, you put in the stones, and you gonga paka mawe ishikane ili sasa weke floor. You must build the house up on an upright foundation. You cannot wake up in the morning on knee-jerk reactions. And that is why I'm saying to you this, that if KANU shows you through this Baringo race, and Nairobi, where we are running Kariobangi North, KANU will show the country that long parties can wait their time and can show their worth. And the reason I'm saying this is, why is the country today in social media discussing KANU? Why are they saying KANU went to see William Ruto, that Gideon went to see William Ruto? Why are they not saying that somebody else went to see William Ruto? Why is Gideon Moi's declaration of running in Baringo now the center of discussion? It is because if Gideon Moi wins the Baringo senatorial position, the beginning of the end of the UDA government starts on that day. Because if Ruto cannot hold the backyard, it means that is the end.
And if it doesn't, will it now be a bellwether of he's also running for the presidency, that he's there now running to lose again? Gideon, I think this will be the greatest ultimate steps for Gideon Moi.
Luckily for my boyhood friend, Gideon, he has launched the best and the wisest. In Nairobi, we are here. We have candidates as KANU across the country. We have candidates in Western Kenya. When these results are done, KANU will be on the roster. The other day, I watched the Olympic Championships in Tokyo, and Kenya was number 2 to the United States, having won an incredible number of medals, 11, because the table normally scores who has won. I want to tell the country here at TV47, KANU will be on the roster. KANU will be on the table of victors. I can tell the people of Nairobi, the people who are going to vote in Kariobangi North are going to send a signal that yours truly, Tony Gashoka, is the next governor. And so I want to be clear that we are not just fighting wars in Baringo. We are fighting wars across the country. But we cannot fight wars hiding. We can only fight wars by coming out. And that is why I came here to face the mighty Didbas Baraza, because I'm told he's a man who doesn't spare his words or his venom, and that he would have come here to face me. I hope when you rearrange this, we could have discussed some of the things which are happening to Kenya Kwanza, and particularly there in Western, because I wanted to tell Didmas Baraza that the time for short commentary are gone. The time for, acrobatics are gone. This is the time now we have to redefine the Kenyan state. Why am I saying so? By elections, as I told you during the time of Kemunya in Kipipiri, redefined how Kibaki's heirs were seen under Uhuru. So Kemunya, who grew from the Kibaki era, wanted comfort in the Uhuru government. And Uhuru could see that something here was going wrong, and there was some change. So by-elections sometimes can bring a realignment, as happened in Musambweni. So I think that if the opposition wins Bere North and wins Malava, then that's a warning shot to Ruto that neither Kindiki nor Musalia Mudavadi can form long-term partners for him to win the presidency in 2027. So I am predicting here at TV 47 that the opposition will win Malava, the opposition will win Bere North, and Kanu will win Kariobangi North here in Nairobi. And if we do so, the questions are whether Gideon wins Baringo or not becomes a bonus. And why I'm saying it becomes a bonus is because William Ruto's home ground is where he must not fail. So if he can fail or struggle to win Baringo, it shows that nationally he has a problem. Finally, I wanted to say this. The IBC has an opportunity, and I appeal to them.
No, before we go to the IBC, because what makes you think that Kanu can just spring out of the oblivion?
If you live in a North Carolina zip code and have 0 DUIs in the last 5 years.
Yeah. Huyo ni Tony Gashoka. I didn't know that he is in Kanu, but he is saying Ruto ataona fire. Nayo Mbere hiyo party. Mbere hiyo, we are doing serious. So, hiyo hata sio kitu ya kushida tukiulizia. Mbere, Ruto, you are not getting. Look for other things to do. Mbere, you are not getting, sir. In good faith. Okay. Let me see if there is still another person who can tell us something. Mnajua vizuri sana mimi siwaoneshangi Ruto because I have so many things to do. He said something about Ida. So let me put that statement where Tony Gashoka talked to Ida. I think he wanted Ida to speak the truth.
You have been also one person who has been backed in the system within ODM previously. Now you're in Kanu. You want to tell us also why you exited from ODM to Kanu, why Kanu is your choice also of a party to be running and the Nairobi gubernatorial seat. But talking of the health of the ODM party leader, you've seen also just from the story we just ran that Ida also is coming to just make sure that we get the clarity and pacify the public who are wondering where is Raila Odinga. I wonder, you are also a close confidant of Raila Odinga. Have you made any calls? Yeah. Have you talked to him lately?
So
is he in mint condition?
So I want to start by acknowledging that, Mama Ida Odinga is my mother, my political mother.
Yes.
So when she speaks, I get a bit concerned. I wanted to tell Mama Ida of the comments of Dr. Maya. Dr. Maya said that integrity, first of all, is telling yourself the truth. Dr. Maya also said that honesty is telling the truth to other people. Dr. Maya then said, truth without love is brutality. And he said, without love, truth is a hypocrisy. And he said, an unbelieved truth can hurt a man much more than a lie. So my message to Mama Ida and the people who love Raila is that when people have an unbelieved truth, it is worse than a lie. I want to repeat myself. When you have an unbelieved truth, it is worse than a lie. The way in which the matter of Mheshimiwa Raila is being handled is not professional, it's not just to the people of Kenya, and it's not just to Honorable Raila Odinga. You know, health issues have met great men in this country before. I remember this was the argument with the late Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, when people surrounded him when he was unwell in Mombasa, and it took a very long time for his inner circle to actually tell retired President Moi, late President Moi, that Kenyatta had died. It was a major issue of secrecy. This issue also happened with the late Wamalwa Kijana when he was taken ill and taken to London. And these issues of health, in Kenya, we don't have a good history of being honest. What I know from my brother Raila, and I haven't rung him, but I want to ring him, is that he has over the years been subjected to atrocious prison conditions. He had been detained for over 8 years. He has problems with his eyes, and he continues sometimes to need, to cushion his eye from a tear that comes from that era of detention. Honorable Raila Odinga suffers from diabetes, and he has managed it well with a good health regime and with good gym and so forth. And so he's been quite healthy, but I do know at some point his back used to bother him quite a lot. And he had done a lot to handle the back, and he had been even to 1 or 2 hospitals in Dubai. And the reason Mheshimiwa Raila Odinga went to Dubai is because German hospitals have moved their care in the best facilities in Dubai. So you don't actually fly to Germany to get the top European care. And so he has been going there from time to time on his back. Now, my worry is that with Mzee's problems in terms of, the diabetes and the age which he now has, I worry if this has now become a serious problem, because, diabetes is not good for any person at any age. And I think that when I heard Karori Omondi, the MP, the other day saying that we should pray for Raila, it worried me, because I worked with Karori Omondi at the office of the Prime Minister, and he was the chief of staff. And then there was Mohammed Isahakia, who was a PS, and Tony Gashoka as director of protocol. So if Karori is saying, let's pray for Mzee, I'm concerned. So my message to Mama Ida and others is, in the words of Dr. Maya, even if it is true, that Mzee is okay, an unbelieved truth can be worse than a lie. I would urge transparency. I would urge that there be doctors. In the case of the late President Mwai Kibaki, Dan Gekonyo and his hospital team would come out and many times say, President Kibaki has been admitted at Nairobi Hospital, and this was his problem. And Kenyans took it. Mwai Kibaki was in Nairobi Hospital for more than 1 year, and the government was being run by his people. At that time, Matere Kireri, Christopher Morongaro, and others. But Kenyans knew the state of their president, Mwai Kibaki. And even during the election, His Excellency Raila Odinga told the country that the captain has been injured, but I'm taking over. There was nothing about the Kibaki injury that was hidden. So to all those people who love Raila and those that love him, including me, my advice is, let's be transparent about any issue that could be facing him, because we all want to pull together to pray for Raila. We would all want to pray, pull together to wish him well. But it's very difficult when it looks like it's a competition. Who's right and who is wrong.
Who's wrong.
Anybody can be
even within the communications department of ODM.
Absolutely.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, they posted a picture the other day of Mzee in a hospital where people were zooming in and seeing Arabic writing and King's Hospital. And it was not consistent. No, normally, the spokesman of the Raila Odinga family is Dr. Oburu Odinga. And normally, when Mzee, for example, got COVID, Oburu Odinga said, I went to see my brother in Nairobi hospital. He got COVID. And after this will happen and he'll be released. And nobody raised an issue. When Mzee went to Dubai for care, Dr. Oburu Odinga again released a statement. But when it reaches a point now where Mama Aida Odinga, who's my political mother and a very good friend of mine, has to be put to have to come to clarify, it means that the matter is now getting untidy. And I think it's not about Raila Odinga. It's not about ODM. It's about the Kenyan nation, because Baba holds a place in this country where, regardless of politics, people would want to know his state of health. And I tell you why. Because, you see, the matters facing this country are largely lie on ODM and what ODM is going to do. There was a postponement of ODM at 20, which was meant to be in Mombasa.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, Mzee is now not there. So, you know, Kenyans are beginning to ask the question, is there something not happening here? I remember in the regime of Mwai Kibaki, when the agro-releasing scandal broke, there was a very big question about the people surrounding Mwai Kibaki.
Monday.com, the opposite of any work platform we tried in the past. We tried other work management platforms, not naming names.
Yeah, that is Tony Kashoka. So I don't know what was, he seems frustrated by, he seems to be frustrated by Ida. I think he doesn't think Ida has collected enough information or has given enough information to Kenyan. So that was Tony Kashoka. Hata nimeshangaa he is in Kano. So please, kama unaingia kwa show muniambie. I think leo ODM wameshindwa wakipigia I think mtu yao pia debe. I think hiyo ya na huko Nyakati na huko hiyo watashinda hiyo. I don't think we need to focus on that one.
The former one-term MP who has really shaken the Ruto presidency. Nobody's talking about that. It seems that many Kenyans have forgotten where Rigathi Gachagua has come from. Indeed, on paper, he's supposed to be a very inexperienced politician. Only one term in parliament. And yet he has shaken the nation of Kenya to its roots. Indeed, Rigathi Gachagua is the new Raila Odinga. When he speaks, the nation listens. But not very many analysts have talked about how Rigathi Gachagua got there. Because there's some very interesting political lessons to learn here. Very interesting tips on how you can come from being a nobody to a nightmare to a regime. Oh yes, Rigathi Gachagua is the Ruto presidency's worst nightmare. I think there's no debate over that. But even more interesting is the motivation. And the motivation of Rigathi Gachagua on my show today is captured in a single image. Surely that should be super fascinating. But what really makes this politician tick? What has brought him so far? Well, we take a very deep look at that. And it is much more than interesting. So please stay with me. I assure you, you'll not be disappointed. A very warm welcome to my show. Twende Kazi.
Are you worried that using your home address for business puts your privacy at risk? At iPostal One,
Term MP. Okay? He served as Member of Parliament for Madeira from 2017 to 2022. And that's it. He has got no other elective credentials on his CV, apart from, of course, his very brief stint as Deputy President of the country. Now let us digest that for a minute, please, without any emotions. How does somebody with very limited political experience, elective political experience, suddenly become the most powerful politician in the country? He only scare happy. By the way, in case you didn't know, Rigathi Gachagua is the new Raila. Oh yes. You want proof? Before, if there was something wrong in the country, you'd hear people discussing, let's get word to Raila. Nowadays, people say what? Let's get word to who? Rigathi Gachagua. One term, MP. Now, I have to confess that my recent experiment of doing 2 videos on the same subject did not quite fly. And so I have to make a very big effort to keep this one brief, but then also give you the usual thorough, deep analysis. And so let's get to the crux of the subject immediately. How did Gachagua pull this one off? How? What tips can we take away for anybody out there who has political ambitions? Now, to very quickly summarize it, Bwana Gachagua learned from one of the best, but became even better. And then he surrounded himself with some very smart handlers. That's a summary, but it doesn't do justice to what has happened here. Now, I'm aware that many Kenyans do not know that in Kenyan politics, the guru of finding the emotional hook in the politics in Kenya and taking full advantage of it is William Samoei Ruto. Now, I know some of us are surprised, and I know somebody's asking, why doesn't he use the same tricks now to get himself out of the mess and become a more commanding and successful president? Well, the answer to that is very simple. You see, it is much easier to be a rebel than a leader, because anywhere in the world, it is not too difficult to find something that the people are not happy about, and to criticize the government. That is very easy. It is all about emotions, and it is all about finding the right wave of emotions and riding on it. Let me give you a quick example. Ruto shut down the Building Bridges initiative by finding something that Kenyans were very concerned about and very emotional about, and that is leaders creating positions and then giving themselves huge salaries and perks. Kenyans have always been very emotionally against that. And therefore, Ruto's rallying call was that the Building Bridges initiative was all about people creating positions for themselves. Now, that one was very effective because it made a vast majority of Kenyans see red, and they did not want to see anything else beyond that, about the advantages of the Building Bridges initiative, which would have gotten us out of even the mess we are in right now, would have saved the country a lot of pain and trouble. Now, why Gachagua becomes better than the teacher and the guru himself is that he's very good at slogans and simplifying things. One term, we listen to the people, and his DCP party is all about putting your hand right next to your ear, listening carefully to what the people are saying. And you see, the timing for that was perfect, because we have the Ruto regime, which most Kenyans say does not listen to anybody. It can pretend to listen, but it never listens. So here comes DCP and Gachagua, and they're listening to the people. Can you imagine the impact? Well, you don't need to imagine it. We have all seen it, haven't we? But apart from the strategy, there is a much bigger lesson for all of us to take away from this show today.
Hello, my name is Adam Ferrari, the Chief Executive Officer of Phoenix Energy. I look forward to you joining us.
And this is the thing that drives a human being to be very determined to do something. What motivates a man to go over and above the abilities you may think they have, the abilities even they think they have? What can motivate a man to go over and above that? And for this one, Gachagua has to thank Ruto a lot. Ruto did everything. Ruto did an excellent job in motivating Gachagua. How did he motivate Gachagua? By impeaching him. And during the impeachment, the arrogance in the Ruto camp, this man is nothing. We're going to remove him from the deputy presidency and nothing will happen. He can do nothing. He can go nowhere. He will be finished. That was Gachagua's motivation. Now, we talk a lot about human nature on this channel. Yeah, but let me clarify this so that we're all on the same page. Imagine a situation where you fall in love with this girl and one day she comes and tells you, I am dumping you for so and so. Why? You're not ambitious, you're poor, I don't see any bright future with you. I much prefer John, who is definitely going places, and you can see already what is happening in his life. There is no motivation bigger than that one. You'll agree with me. Because when that person is dumped by the girl, there are only two things they can do. There are only two things which can happen here. Either that person can completely give up, or they can be energized to overachieve. That's human nature for you. And the scene that cannot leave my mind is that scene of Gachagua walking away with his wife. I'm sure you remember it. And his dear wife was crying. And Gachagua looked very upset. I believe this was after the impeachment. That scene cannot leave my mind. That is where the motivation came from. And I can assure you, if you're a student of human nature like me, you know for sure that Gachagua will not rest, he will not stop until the Ruto regime goes home. Now I can hear somebody shooting back and saying, Chris, no, you're not right. Gachagua is very ambitious. He wants to be president. Yeah, he's going to use us to become president. Okay, let me answer that one. Remember I said Gachagua is the new Raila? Remember, there was a time in 2017 when Raila supporters started pushing him. That is the real president, he is the people's president. He must be sworn in. Remember? And not in his bedroom, and not in his residency, in a public place. I'm sure most of us remember that. Now, Raila and his handlers knew that his mock swearing in will change absolutely zero. But there was pressure from his supporters. And had he disappointed the supporters, mambo ingekuwa mzuri. So what happened? Raila went to Uhuru Park. There was Miguna there. There was Orengo there. And Raila was sworn in with a very carefully worded oath of office to avoid breaking the law. Do you remember that? Fast forward to the present. Many Gachagua supporters have been putting pressure on him. Vie for the presidency. You must vie for the presidency. Now, Gachagua and his handlers know very well that that is a pipe dream. Why? Because Gachagua is impeached. And I don't think it is possible to overturn an impeachment, because an impeachment is a political process. How do you overturn that one? Unless the vote was rigged, otherwise there's no other way of overturning an impeachment. And therefore, Rigathi Gachagua, and he knows this, I'm very sure, his handlers know this, cannot vie for the presidency of Kenya. I know many Kenyans have been brushing this aside, but that is the reality. But what did the new Raila still do? He declared that he's going to vie for the presidency. Now, I'm very much aware that I'm disappointing very many of you, but I'm sure you come here for nothing but the truth. Okay? Gachagua, being the new Raila, Raila never became president of Kenya. Even Gachagua, the new Raila, is really a kingmaker, a very influential brand new kingmaker in Kenyan politics. If tomorrow Chris Kumekucha marries from the mountain and then goes to Kiambu County and seeks to be governor, and Gachagua comes and says, Kumekucha Chris tosha mboga, I'm going to win that election at 4 a.m. in the morning. Do we agree? The brand new Raila Odinga is here. His name is Rigathi Gachagua. Please let us stay focused on who Rigathi Gachagua really is, okay? Before his recent rise to fame. You remember when he started off as the deputy president, Kenyans had to dress him. Do you remember his suits? I'm sure you remember. Now, I'm not bashing him. Gachagua is a simple man, just like me. Even me, I don't know how to dress. Okay? He's a simple man. Hii maneno ya masuti kizungu mingi. No. He's a very simple.
Trading options can be a great way to generate income, but most traders are losing money and
man. A simple man who has risen from virtually nowhere. Yeah, because when he was impeached, he was being thrown back into the cold. A nobody. Yeah, but the problem was, this Mr. Nobody turned out to be Ruto's worst nightmare. Still ongoing. Oh yes, that is exactly what has happened here. And if you still want to downplay the achievement of Rigathi Gachagua, let me ask you a simple question. I thought that when Raila Odinga is not around, the other big heavyweights in the opposition, like Kalonzo Musyoka, what happened? Kalonzo Musyoka would have stepped in immediately and filled in Raila's shoes, and would have felt his impact. Did that happen? No. In fact, we have a very interesting situation these days, where it seems that Kalonzo Musyoka has to consult with Rigathi Gachagua. Consult with who? That is the reality. I'm not inventing this. I'm not making it up. That is the reality. I'm not responsible for it. Even if you get mad at me, that is the reality. No wonder at the moment there is a very big war against Rigathi Gachagua. Raila's health, when people want to bash somebody, first on the list is Rigathi Gachagua. When you go online, everything is bashing Rigathi Gachagua. In fact, one particular narrative that has worked very well in bashing Rigathi Gachagua is that people call him a tribalist. Now let's stand back a minute and analyze that. If you're Mr. Nobody coming from nowhere and you've just been impeached and you're very angry and you want to show people what you're made of, will you have your first meeting somewhere in Wajir in a football field? Or will you go down to the coast and start talking to the Waswahili there and convincing them that unatosha mboga? No, that's not how politics works. You start at home. You look for your advantage and you start with the advantage you have. That's not being a tribalist. That is smart strategy. Okay? I just want to challenge everybody who still believes Gachagua is a tribalist. In the comments area below, tell me how you would have done it. Tell me how Rigathi Gachagua should have done it so that he avoids the tribalist tag. Explain to me. Hey, politics does not work how you think it works. Politics is not boardroom manenos. Because you know today, the DCP party is flexing its muscles, a very brand new party, is flexing its muscles well beyond the Morema. Yeah? Even in Western Kenya. Can you imagine that? In other words, the party that belongs to the man you're calling a tribalist is making an impact countrywide. So what you're trying to say is that a vast majority of ordinary Kenyans cannot see that Gachagua is a tribalist. Get out of here. You can't convince me. And I have news for you. You have just fallen for smart propaganda from government bloggers. Hakuna kitu ingine, it is just that. And so, in my opinion, What does the future hold for Rigathi Gachagua? I believe that future is very bright because that thing motivating him, which is deep inside him, ni uchungu ya kuvumilia madharau. They dharaued him. They mocked him. They treated him like trash. He has a lot to prove. And that is motivation that cannot be stopped. And I see Rigathi Gachagua as a very important kingmaker who cannot be ignored in Kenyan politics. You may not like him, you may not like Murema, but Rigathi Gachagua and Murema cannot be ignored in Kenyan politics. They have the numbers. Bwana Gachagua has the support from well beyond Murema. He cannot be ignored. Have you asked yourself, why is it that the Ruto regime seems to have no answer for Rigathi Gachagua? They had an answer for Raila Odinga, which they implemented. We have seen the results. They had an answer for very aggressive young activists like Morara Kebaso. We have seen the results. The mighty government of the Republic of Kenya always has an answer for virtually everything. But currently, there seems to be no answer.
Did you know that almost any question you have about your revenue data can be answered almost instantly? Here's how.
For a man called Rigathi Gachagua, do you want to convince me that that is nothing? Now, incidentally, in one of my highly sensitive past special reports, I gave a lot of information most Kenyans are not aware of, which is highly sensitive, on Rigathi Gachagua. And a lot of what was said in that special report, some of what was said, has come to pass. And I'm talking about stuff which at the time looked like ndoto ya mchana. It has come to pass. And for that reason, I want to throw in that special report with my very latest special report on strange bedfellows. Strange people are talking. We're having very strange unions. People talking to each other from opposite sides of the political divide. And you wonder, what could these people be talking about? And you know, this is in reaction to the new political order in the country. And this man called Rigathi Gachagua has had a lot to do with this new political order in the country. I'm sure you'll agree with me. And therefore, I'm throwing in this previous highly sensitive special report with the latest one, which is going for only Kenya shillings 2,999. You can see details on your screens right now. Please order it immediately, and you'll also get this super fascinating Rigathi Gachagua info. And by the way, the golden key is still available. The golden key means that you'll be able to get anything and everything kumekucha, forever, for a one-time payment of only Kenya shillings 6,444. For only a one-time payment of Kenya shillings 6,444.
Yeah, that is kumekucha. He a bit excites me these days. He was trying to paraphrase the life of Gachagua and how Gachagua, one-timer MP, Gachagua had experience mingi, by the way. He has become the biggest thing in Kenya to the extent that he might influence the next election. Very serious, We need to be critical about that. Na tafadhali kama kuna mtu ataka kuingia show, muniambie. So, I want to do my last video tonight. I want to do my last video tonight. I want to do my last video tonight. Malava.
Wakazi wanangu wameshibika. Ndio walisa itasoita shtanda. Mtoke katika mlango wenye ulizaliwa, ingia mlango moja, mlango yabaluya kula kabras. Sasa panyako hapa umesimama. Yetu yabana wakabras wanangu wameshibika. Ndio walisa itasoita shtanda. Sio wengi, lakini Saida kutoka nyumba ndogo aliongoza wakabras, akawaletea maendeleo ambaye haijaonekana kwa nyumba ya kabras. Mheshimiwa, kutoka kwa nyumba yetu ya Watabo, ushikane na washirika, ushikane na Wasonje, ushikane na Washu, ushikane kanenda bakula mbele hanu kwenye MP Mulai. Soite shtanda ndio Khalwale, sisi ndio tulizalisha hii. Ilikuanga soko ya kioski moja ya watu kunywa soda na chai kama wanatoka hapa kotini, lakini tukaleta factory Manyonje Butali Shuka. We have a market, modern market, Ilangwa Butali market, na Nyangaruba MP an ultra modern market Ilangwi Soite Shtanda Memorial Market. Sasa nakutakia mema, ushinde kura. Serikali ya baraza hatuoni matunda yake. Serikali ya rais anakuja wakati anataka kura ndio anaweka tingatinga kwa barabara. Mr. President, ninakuomba, I beg you, Mheshimiwa William Ruto, mimi ndio nilikuingisha Luyaland. Mwenye anakuambia akufanyishe drama kwa ajili ya by election ya Malaba, wachana nayo, weka Nairobi, amia kijana yako Faruku, akae Nairobi, Waluya tufanye maneno ya Waluya, kama ya Baraku ya Nyamushena. I do not understand. Eugene Wamalwa, probably the problem is with me. Ni kwa nini Waluya tunafanya mambo yetu nyumbani? Ndege ambazo sio za Waluya zinaruka asubuhi mpaka jioni, Jumatatu mpaka Jumapili. Please Mr. President, siku ya rais itafika, utakuja utatuambia unataka nini. Lakini hii ni kiti ya Waluya. Chisoku shabu kabras na khaben wanya khubiri Mheshimiwa Seth Panyako Ikura. Makabrasi, naona kitu yoyote ikifanyika, mjue kwamba I have decided kusimama na nyinyi, kwa sababu nisiposimama na nyinyi mtapangwa. Wakati Wakalenjini wanajipanga, sisi Waluya hatufuki mlima tukaenda kuwa wawache, na sisi wenyewe tufanye nini? Tujipanga. Wakati Wajaluo, Wakikuyu wanapanga mambo yao, sisi hatuendi huko kuwapanga. Mheshimiwa Wamalo, ukiwa hapa sasa uko na fighter, hata ukitaka kuja hapa kama umetoa shati, hiyo itakuwa mambo ya nyumbani. Hii vitu vidogo vidogo, unasikia kijana anaitwa Musiaka anapinga Panyako, kijana anaitwa Indakwa anapiga Panyako, wanatumiwa Waluya. Mwanaume mwenye amekataa mamilioni ya pesa wenyewe tujipange ni Mheshimiwa Seth Panyako. Huyu Seth
Hey, Are you ready to become a competent PLC programmer without needing a college degree and without needing to fumble around on?
Alafu
Yeah, Judy, wacha nisikuweke sana. Good evening. Uko namna gani? Julia.
Jiru, hebu maliza kucheza hiyo clip nifanye kitu kidogo hapa.
Haya, ni sawa. I didn't want kukuweka sana.
No, niko area. Jiru, what's going on? I thought you could ucheze hiyo clip. Ama Jiru amefreeze ama mimi nimefreeze. Seems. Anybody can hear me from the comment section. Semeni mnanisikia. Ndio nijue mimi ndio nimefreeze.
wakati sasa anamaliza mtasikia wale katika Senate Mr. Speaker saa tinga siendelee kufanya kazi. Na wakikataa mlio wa sasa wakatae mlio wangu nitachukua vijana ya bullfighting, hakuna tinga itatoka hapa. Wakijaribu tutoa tutachoma hiyo tinga. We cannot allow. Haki yetu ya maendeleo ni kura yetu. Kulimanya bakona abagali babo kandi kutukuna abagali beru kukona n'abagali beru kandi kwibana. They cannot. I refuse. They cannot be using the numbers. Ndio wapatie watoto wao ajira, wapatie mabibi zao kwa mfuko na bakali n'abana beru ni basamba manya kuti basata babibula bahera ba mama bao shughulio ta bakali mulanga yekura muhubawina vijana we yekura muhubawina wewe ndakwa ondoka kwa hii kitu ndakuondoka wesikia hapa Kabras, ambia president Kabras huwezi shinda bullfighter hapa. Ndio mimi nilipata 40,000 votes na William Ruto akapata 26,000 votes hapa ndio mimi nilipata 40,000 votes. Eugene Wamalwa na Raila Odinga akapata 20,000 votes. Kura zangu zote 40,000. Naomba mpigie sete na wewe Mluya mwenye unakataa kusikia mlio yangu, ujue sio sababu yangu, ni sababu ya watoto wetu. Ujue ni sababu ya mabibi zetu. Ujue ni heshima ya Mluya, na ukikataa siku yako itafika, mtakutana na Soita aliza kureba ulireba mare uli wachenda iwe reba mare uli wachenda iwe yanga yokutia. I tell you, Jabalia nende Michael kijana Wamalwa alikuwa akinishika mkono, akashika Eugene Wamalwa mkono. Sisi ndio tuko. Mkikataa kusikiza sisi kwa sababu mnataka kusikiza Faruk, ile mtapatia yeye itaenda, lakini ile mtapatia kwa Wamalwa na Seth Panyako itapaki hapa nyumbani Imalava. Wewe mlinde. Sasa ninakaribisha National Party Leader wa chama ya DAP Kenya, Mheshimiwa Eugene Wamalwa. Wamalwa tinya kasa.
Who's coming in the driveway?
Julia, that is it. Boni Karwane ni kama mimi simuelewangi. He is like saying Ruto will lose the election, na the same time aoneshani ametoka UDA. All the time anaambia Ruto you lose the election, ukiendelea hivi unaendelea. So it's like, but I think Boni Karwane will finally exit. So anyway, Julia, go ahead.
Halole is just plain safe. Halole knows the tides are not on the part of Ruto, na anajua kwamba kuuza Ruto sasa ni kama kuuza wanasimanga nini, kuuza nguruwe kwa Waislamu, kwa msikiti ya Waislamu. Unaona pale ukisimama pale kwa msikiti ya Waislamu and you are hooking some food, and some of the food you are hooking ni nguruwe. Halole knows that, so I don't blame him. He knows. But one thing I want to take from that, I love the vile unity wametokea nayo, because I don't know Halole kwa chama gani sasa. Halole kwa chama gani Njiru? Ni wa UDA ni wa wapi? Ujue kwa chama gani? Hata hajui.
I can't. He pretends to be the in UDA, but I don't know.
So you see, they have come out to support Panyako. I think Panyako will win that seat. And that is why from the beginning, kitambo Njiru nakumbuka mimi nikisema kwamba DCP should not have somebody in that seat. Na bado wanakaa wako na yule mtu wao wamesimamisha hapo. They should not create division. Unaona? Kwa sababu kuweka mtu wao hapo, and I saw Malala campaigning for that person on DCP some time back. So I hope Malala is also learning a lesson. The real unity right now is very much needed. Just like I wouldn't want to see Natembea fighting Wamalwa. Hiyo kiburi ya politicians, that pride and arrogance and entitlement that makes them fight each other. It costs them a lot. Halole has said something. All this division wamefanya has cost them development. Unaona, Luyas have ascended to power all the way to the running mate several times. True or false? Wameascend mara mingi. Kumaanisha, the rest of the politicians in Kenya, now even the rest of Kenya, appreciates that they have the numbers. Appreciate that they have the numbers. But somehow, they never seem to get a breakthrough beyond that. Because sababu gani? They allow too much division. For example, how on earth did they give Raila Odinga so many votes and they still allowed Mudavadi and not Mudavadi, Wetangula, to bring some kind of division there, only for him to dump them into UDA? Why do they allow such things? Why? What is wrong with them? Kwa nini hawezi kuwa na msimamo waamue sisi tuko pande hii? So because of that, they have lacked a bargaining power. Because ya hiyo kitu ya kugawana, hata tujuangi wako wapi by the way sometimes. Even now, I think Western Kenya is one of the places where nobody seems to know where exactly they are. Okay? Because even their politicians, they are not decisive. Viongozi wao, unaona saa hizi, wacha nikwambie, hata kama people who claim that Mlima kuna division gani, one thing we know about Mlima, hatuko kwa UDA. That one is very clear cut. Hakuna negotiation hapo. Mlima ukiamua umeamua, and war anti anybody who is opposed by Mlima, war anti any leader in Kenya who finds themselves against Mount Kenya region. Because when Mount Kenya decides, they have decided. And even now, it is not like Gachagua has decided everything for them. They can even easily throw him out. They are decisive. Okay, so I think the Western Kenya needs to be decisive. We don't want to hear. You see, right now, if there's an election is held today, one thing I'm very sure that Ruto will get very few votes, if any, from Mount Kenya region. But I was very surprised to see Ruto getting very many votes from Western Kenya, even when I thought that at least Western Kenya had some, Raila Odinga had some favor in that land. So much favor that some of the governors were from ODM. So how on earth did some of them decide so they need really to come out and decide, no, it is for the sake of our region, we need to be together and united. So I love that push of unity by Halwale, and I think that is what I think. And I want to comment this about DCP having a candidate in Western Kenya. Now, I think, Njiru, people here who are pro-Gachagua so much, personally, I appreciate the work he's doing, and I think he's one of the I think he's the only one who is really pushing this fight. He's above everybody else. Kuna mtu ameweka effort kama Gachagua sai. Wacha niseme hivyo. Lakini he needs to work on his ego. You see, he needs, things will not work the way walifanya kazi na Ruto. I think Gachagua wants to micromanage the opposition silently. Kimosmos, kichini. And they can see some point of defiance coming out. If you listen to one of the speakers who spoke there with Harwale, alisema kwamba if DCP does not withdraw their candidate from Malava, they will withdraw from the united opposition. That is a message to Gachagua. Do not micromanage the opposition. Stick to your lane. Akae kwa lane yake. Jana Gachagua went to Kambani, and even though he was mobilizing for Kalonzo, from me, he belittled Kalonzo. He said that mimi ndio na spokesman. Mimi niko nyuma yake. Siwezi gojia mtu aongee juu ya Kalonzo. It's like Kalonzo is a small boy. Come on. He needs to come out of that. You see, if this one decides to think that he's trying to intimidate them, at once Gachagua na micromanage, it will work to the disadvantage of the opposition. So he needs to be smart enough to realize that this opposition can no longer work the UDA style, the DO style. Hii opposition ni ile nikimalizia niseme ni ile mimi I thought I was employed when Moi was leaving power. Wengine wenyu mtashangaa sana kwamba nilikuwa nafanya kazi when Moi was leaving power. Nimekula kachumvi. And when I was employed, corporal punishment was there in the Kenyan high school. Before long, I think Kibaki era, corporal punishment was outlawed. Mimi nimefundisha watoto wenye walijua kuchapwa na walimu. Nikakutwa na watoto wenye sasa wanajua kuongereshwa. Do you know Kenyan children and youths in the high schools, you don't just yell at them and coerce them and make policies. When I left Kenya, students were electing their prefects. Electing. Si siku zetu wenye principal na walimu walikuwa wanachagua ma prefects. When I left Kenya, students had what we call presidents and representatives. See prefects when I left Kenya. Yani Kenya ilikuwa imesonga mpaka democracy ilikuwa imeingia kwa walimu na kwa shule. What am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that everybody has to change their ways and the way you manage people, because times have changed. People no longer will take micromanagement. Hata watoto wako, nyinyi mko na watoto. I think Alex has some older kids. Njiru, sijui watoto wako wako how old. Mine ni Gen Z, ni wale wanajua kila kitu. When you wanasemanga they have no time for the silly Kenyan government. Ni wale wenye wanakuambiaga no ma'am, you don't have to build that kind of a house. You can do this. Hata unatuchanua zile, mnaona nyule nyumba zinajengwa saa hizi za zinaletwa kama zimejengwa. Have you seen the latest housing? It's very nice. So those are the kind of user interactions I have in the house. The people who say no. People you don't micromanage and tell them what to study. So I have had to change my ways. Though I was brought up by a post-colonial parent, I have had to change my thinking and how I manage people around me. Gachagua too has ajiteka mkutano. Right now he's a very powerful politician. He has so much influence. Yes, he's moving the mountain. He's pushing the bull. He's the one holding the bull by its horns. So if he needs to keep these bullfighters together, he needs to turn around and listen to them. And he should not by any chances portray an attitude of entitlement. He should not even allow people like Njiru Degwa, when you wanaropokwa wanaongea ujinga, kuongea ujinga. He should, even akina Malala, those kind of people, he should call them to order and realize that we need each other and we cannot micromanage people. That is my point. The point I got from that Western campaign, hiyo ndio ningetaka DCP sikie sana. Ijiulize, if we have a problem with Jubilee, now someone else in Western is saying this, I think we are the ones who have a problem with ourselves. It is not that other people have a problem with us. Wacha niweke come up on Jiru sana.
Okay, sawa. Thank you very much for that. Nitakuuliza swali lakini after hao wengine wawili wamesema. Jerome Mwaura, go ahead.
Habari cousin.
Yes, go ahead.
Mimi sina ubaya, nasalimia nyinyi wote. Vile nasema mtasagaa. Niseme ama siseme. Kwani iko nini? Mimi nataka mtu wa mlima. Nitaingia kwa ndege niende msague. Sitaki hiyo kuzi. Wana ukabila wakiingia pale wanasapa kazi. Mimi nataka mtu wa mlima sasa. Ndio ndoto imeniambia saa hii. Sauli, ona hii tabu imetoka wapi? Opposition walikuwa wazuri wakati Gachagua alienda Amerika. Opposition they despair. Unaona? Na wanajua ni nani wanadirana na yeye. Kasongo mnamjua. Unatakana Gachagua akuwe aggressive. Ndio huyu Kasongo lose control. I think that Sauli mnamjua hii na uongo yake. Anafungua macho hivi anakuangalia na kudanganya namna hii. Huyu Kasongo. Kwa hivyo hii ni campaign. Nitasema kama Madago, usiweke kwa roho hata kidogo. Sauli wote ni rafiki. Nyinyi citizen ndio mko na uchungu, lakini hao ni rafiki. Hata wakiitwa nini, jioni wanakula pamoja. Usiweke kwa roho. Wanajua. Could you imagine Raila working with Ruto? Simple of that. Kwa hivyo, citizen, please remember Madago alisema usiweke kwa roho hata kidogo. Sasa wajinga wanakula. Madago alisema hivi, sasa anajua tulitukanana pale na tunakula nyama pamoja jioni. Nyinyi citizen, be careful. Yeah? Na lile, I think my citizen, they had no idea about the politician. Sio kama msungu, tumutu tunazaliwa tunajua politician ni nini straight away. Yeah? Hapo huko mimi naona wengine anafikiria tu tuko wakati ya moja. We are politicians. We got independent. We got constitution, new constitution. Watu wakumbuke sasa, anaweza kusema vile anataka na ndivyo wanaongea hivi. Teresa, waombe Mungu upawa, wapigane na huyu saitani huyu Ruto.
Unapotea?
I was listening somebody know about a politician very well interview. Now he said the truth. Now imagine he was hit Kasagwa badly. He said without Kasagwa starting doing this, Ruto atakomesa hii opposition. We are very surprised Kasagwa ametumwa na Mungu. Sauli Ruto mnamjua. Kwa hivyo Kasagwa doesn't mean aggressive for that. He's pointing kamutu kabisa. Yeye peke yake. Na opposition wametuonyesha wakati Kasagwa alienda Amerika, we go back home. That's what they did. But akina hiyo grupo ya DCP, they try, wanapigwa na tear gas, karibu wauawe. Tukuona Kalonzo huko alikuwa amekimya kabisa. Unaona? Akina Matege, akina Lili walikaa nyumbani huko. Lakini sasa ni wafundisho, wakuwe na joto, watu wawajue Sauli huu ni saitani, mnadirana naye, mnajua hivi. Mtu saitani kabisa. Na ana haya. Ana haya. Mimi siwezi kudanganya Wakenya namna hii. Ati alafu nisimame kwa ngali juu. Kunatakana mtu aggressive to confuse Kasongo kabisa akose kufanya kitu. Imagine citizen niseme hiyo pesa anapatanga tuko na bilioni 2, tuko na bilioni 5. Saa hii university wana match. Oh yeah. Our life next tomorrow. The future of Kenya tomorrow. Wako home. Hiyo pesa ati anape Gen Z. Where is the blame?
Jerumora kidogo, universities wamegoma
Yeah, kabisa. Kabisa hata kuona news jana wazazi wamewaambia waite watoto wao, hakuna kazi wanafanya. Hakuna kusoma wanasoma. Sasa kwa hivyo wasipotee, wazazi waanze complain university wako na watoto wao. Waliambiwa waite watoto wao warudi nyumbani. Wamekataa kabisa kufanya kazi. Sasa student wanakaa tu kwa wamefanya ni kama football in the class. Sasa hiyo pesa anaenda kupea Gen Z ati wafanye business ikuwe kama hasura ile ingine ilipotea hivi. Si alipe hawa. Wanalamika ni kweli. Tangu 2017 to 2021 wajalipwa. Sasa kwa nini watu wafanye hesabu? Why are they doing this anyway? Kuko vitu jiro iko very important. Na education na healthy, don't joke. Now I don't know why they keep every president come change health system and education system. How long have been here? They never ever change those system. Tangu nikuwe hapa vile nilikuta system za health education same even today. Na 5 prime minister been this country. Watu wanapandisha ya nini? Citizen watu wa parliament ili seriously somebody nitakana asimame aseme we president whatever ukija this and this is the end. It's been done. Na wangewacha vile Kibaki aliwacha. Sauli hii ni kuharibia watu wakati na kufanya watoto wajiue ama wafanye vile wanataka. It's very serious deal if hujaona ni. Sitaki kukasirika asubuhi. Mungu ameniambia mko huko niamuke. Sitaki kukasirika na Kasongo, naona niingie kwa ndege niende nikapiga makofi mawili. Mimi sijali. Iko nini? Anyhow, tunaombea nchi. Tuko na uchungu tena. Nikimaliza niseme kitu. How CS Interior anaenda kufanya campaign Kampala. Kuko wajamaa wawili wa Kenya wamepotelea huko, wamefishwa na majeshi. Na anaenda kufanyia Museveni campaign. Na Kenya huko Moro, ni Moro ama ni Njoro. Wameacha kuuawa. Mtu mmoja ameuawa huko. Anaacha security Kenya anaenda kufanya campaign pale. What the hell this? Anyhow, wacha niwachie hapo. Nitalia.
Haina shida. Anyway, Jerumora, are you saying that pia Museveni anafanywa campaign hapa Kenya? Maybe wanataka kusaidia Museveni, naye Museveni akiingia naye Museveni akuja wasaidie. I think so.
It look like that Ruto is joking. Munasema sio mkabila na yeye ni mkabila. Sasa anaenda kuigisha na Kenya election na Uganda ya nini? Anajua huyu mtu ni dictator. Unajua Museveni aliingia nikiwa 18 years old. Ndio aliingia huko. Na hajatoka. Hajatoka hata sikuwa najua kusaguana ni nini, mimi si kufuata. Na saa hii yako tu pale. Ya jiro sikuwa.
Haya, sawa nje. So that's tough. So mumesema, unajua wanataka wasaidiwe na Museveni. Unajua Museveni asha perfect wizi kura for 40 years. So pale Uganda tu ni for the sake. I don't know how they can block the election stealing. So Jenny, tunasema nisome comment yako na nitasoma. Umesema let me read it. Jiro, did you guys hear that some Kalenjins are in Uganda helping Museveni in politics because he is from their tribe, starting with the Murkomen, but the other Kenyans are helping opposition. So kwa hivyo in other ones inakaa sisi watu wa Antam, sisi ndio tunasaidia Bobi Wine. Anyway, but Uganda is having a rough battle. It's not easy. I don't know how they are going to face that. You know, Uganda is at a worse point than Kenya. Unajua hata kama tuko na shida, unajua saa zingine kuna wengine wanakuanga kwa maji moto na wengine wako kwa maji lukewarm. So these problems are not the same. Uganda is at a bigger problem than us. But sisemi hata sisi hatuna shida, lakini unajua pia wakati wa shida kuna mtu anakuanga na shida mrefu kuliko ya mwingine. So I don't know how Bobi Wine is going to handle that situation. I'm even surprised that Museveni hata hajaanzia kuua watu. Na the other time wakati alikuwa anaua watu kwa campaign, anazuilia hao watu. Uganda they have a rough situation. Aya Budi, karibu. Unaweza kama unataka chocolate.
Asante sana Jiro. Bobi Wine will never win election in Uganda. He's wasting time. I think Uganda is not like us, so I think he's wasting his time. Just like we said, Chamisa will never win an election in Zimbabwe. I mean, these two countries have like a history that unless intra and intergenerational history passes, there is some things that will never happen under the sun. So I think because of the past trauma and the way the rural areas is structured, in as much as we demonize this tribalism, it has brought us from this singular vote system whereby the executive can execute what we call, like, for instance, in Zimbabwe, they have these war veterans, something that does not even exist to date. But it's an amorphous association that they bring in, and they act like the war veterans are everywhere. The war veterans have said this is the preference of the war veterans, the people who went to the bush, and they've been using it, you know, to the catastrophic of the people's voice. So Uganda is the same thing, you know, whatever happened when Tanzania invaded, when Tanzania invaded Uganda during Idi Amin, I mean, they've used that as a scapegoat for a very long time. But I wanted to talk to Julia today. Julia, mwalimu uko hapa?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you. You know, it's a sad day for teachers in Kenya, and it's not just a sad day for teachers and for students when it comes to what we have seen teachers do. I don't know if you noticed this, and this is something that has hurt me a lot. There is a school called Litain. Litain has been slapped. The student did a strike and they have been slapped with
69 million.
With a huge penalty of 69 million Kenya shillings for the damage that happened. But the story behind it is what is really fascinating. Now, this is what is behind it. Litain has done strikes 3 times within a year. The first time it did, within this year, the teachers, the student was slapped and every parent paid a huge amount of money. Then it happened the second time and the parents were like, what? So they paid a penalty, but at the same time, they went and gave corporal punishment to their kids. Now, it has happened the third time. Now, this third time, it was a little bit complicated. Why? They called a special quality surveyor from Nakuru, who at first came with a predetermined budget of 99 million. And in this 99 million was like 62 million was to go for the damages and everything. Okay. And then they claimed that teachers who did not even live in teachers' compound also had damages, which meant that the teachers were to be paid 30 million, that their properties amounted to 30 million. Now, what is interesting is when Dastan Omari, who is the lawyer, who is a pro bono lawyer, decided to take the case with his, he's a company advocate and, as a commissioner of boards, his company, his legal office. What they realized was the property, which actually when he narrated or rhetorically was putting it, it was like the grass, the soil, the playground, the post, the toilet, and everything of Litain is not more than 100 million. So they don't know how the damage that these kids have caused in 1 year, that they have paid about 300 million, how that comes into. Now, I was asking, are people asking where is the cabinet minister for education is? By the way, I know that man personally. If I ask you today as a teacher, because once a teacher, always a teacher. When your student meet you, they will always say, Teacher Julia. If I ask you today, Teacher Julia, who is the Minister for Education in Kenya? I swear 100%, you will not tell me his name. I know that. You will not tell me his name. And 99% of Kenyans do not know their Minister for Education. Now, this is what is interesting. The Ministry of Education is quiet. Why? Because the proportion of corruption that is going on there is so huge that what headmasters are doing out here is just a drop of rain on the lake. Imagine, Julia, let me ask you, during your days, will a teacher be given 1 million compensation because a strike has happened and there was no loss of life, that property, there is no evidence? And where has our teachers reached when it comes to penalizing? Now, when we were looking at, now I decided to do my own study in regard to this. Julia found out that over this year alone, schools have been heavily penalized for students going to strike, heavily. And what is funny, these strikes are not done by students. Goons go do these strikes, and parents are paying when even, when even our education has plummeted, but also the expenses have gone high. Now, this is very alarming, but the stakeholders of education are quiet, including you. Tell us about that and tell us what is happening to our education system and why have we allowed goons now to do strikes and parents are being penalized for that.
Alex, that's a tough question, but I'm just kind of surprised that Kenyans are discovering the level of corruption in our schools now. I'm very surprised, Alex, because this corruption has gone over for decades. And school principals man millions of Kenya shillings. Alex, do you know there are some school principals that even budget to construct a new home every time there's a small little project in their school? So they come up with projects and projects so that they have extra money to spend on their own. Why am I saying this? My evidence is, tell me, how a school principal who for the last 10 or 20 years has not earned more than 80,000 Kenya shillings net. Or let me say 100,000, because now I know school principals have been given a lot of money. I mean, I think they earn, some may be earning a net of 100,000. Tell me how that person can afford to be running several flats. When I left Kenya, school principals were driving Prados, and if we are to investigate them, can they confirm how they managed to make massive investments, personal massive investments? Nobody has ever investigated them, Alex. Nobody bothers, I'm telling you. Nobody, let me say, Kenyans are fooled. Now, the Teachers Service Commission pays teachers salaries depending on their qualification and level of experience. So it does not mean the school principal for Alliance High School earns more than the school principal for Kagumo High School because he's his alliance. Now, if they have the same qualification and the same level of experience, they should be earning the same amount of money. So Kenyans seem to think that you have a big cool school, so you have a big paycheck. No, Teachers Service Commission doesn't operate like that. So what I'm trying to say is these school principals cannot defend or account for what they spend and how much they have. 99% point cannot, Alex. It is that bad. Now, when I was in Kenya, I succeeded to, I guess I got promoted. So I rose in my ranks very fast because I was teaching in some schools that were performing. You know, CSC for quite some time has been promoting teachers according to the level of performance. Like in size is corruption. So there were days, especially in the days of Kibaki, you only need to go for an interview when unaonesha your qualification, that is your degrees, unaonesha your level of experience, and then unaonesha uko na responsibility. Then the next question that mattered most is the mean score ya wanafunzi wako ya KCSE. That is what mattered most. And they could grade mean score ya walimu wa day school, ilikuwa inawekwa kando, mean score ya walimu wa hizi provincial schools. So there is no way a day school teacher would be made to compete with a provincial school teacher, because they realize the challenges this day school teacher require experience. So if you are in a day school and you posted exemplary results in that day school in comparison with other day schools, then you get a lot of points, and therefore you are likely to rise very fast in your promotion. So by the time nitoke Kenya, I think I was already in job group N, and I was my certification read principal teacher. I was not a school principal, but my certification read principal teacher. Kuna vile unaweza rise unaambiwa wewe ni principal teacher. Now what am I so by the time I left, I was a deputy principal for a big school, a very big school. And when we used to go for meetings, my other deputy colleagues wa zile shule ndogo, they would say, hey Julia, si wewe unafurahia, sasa wewe utapewa shule. Sasa I used to be like, no, mimi sitaki kupewa shule, kwa sababu wenye wanapewa shule wenye wanataka kupora mali ya wazazi. Let me tell you, my short point for this is that anybody who wants to become school principal in Kenya, even in those days when I was a teacher, wanted to become school principal because they wanted to loot the money of the parents. It is not because their paycheck was high, because TSC pays people depending on your qualification and your experience, not your school. So ukisikia watu wakingangana kuwa principal, it is because they want to go and loot the money of the parents. And teachers bribe at the TSC hundreds, thousands, or even millions to be given as a particular school, shule kubwa yenye iko na watoto wengi, so that they can loot the money of the parent. Now, the pesa wazazi, especially those big boarding schools, is supposed to be paid in KCB. And according to zile sheria, Basic Education Act that was created in the days of Uhuru or Kibaki, schools cannot run another bank account. They should have an account in KCB. Guess what? Later on, in the days of Uhuru and now, they were able to come up with accounts in Cooperative Bank, Equity Bank. Hizo accounts ni za uporaji. Alex Nanjiru, kama mnalipianga wazazi fees, watoto fees Kenya, ukisikia unaambiwa ulipe kwa Equity ama Cooperative Bank, that is an account for looting the parents, because all monies for Kenyan schools are supposed to be paid in KCB. That is what Kibaki government decided, so that those accounts can be controlled and monitored. Lakini wapi? The head teachers were able to get away with it. So what do the head teachers do? They create projects. Mimi mnakumbuka stories za kununua bus, where every other school, even that they didn't need a school bus, bought a bus. Yani shule hata zenye they don't go anywhere, they don't even go for music festival or anything, walikuwa na bus. Hizi bus mnazionanga kwa mikutano ya Ruto. You see those buses in the Ruto's meeting. Those buses were used to loot parents. Their children, their schools where parents have paid for a school bus for the last 20 years. Ati bado kuna mchango ya school bus. Now, when they have exhausted the projects, what do the school head teachers do? They incite the students to go and strike and burn school property. So, and usually especially ukiona administration inachoma, those are attempts to hide even evidence. Those school boys and girls, most of the time when you wanna choma shule, some are usually given money to do so by school principals and school authorities. First, administrative blocks, they are burnt so that evidence is inachoma. Unajua Kenya bado investigation haijafika kama America, where they can take hard drives and all that. Computers are burnt and all that. So a lot of records disappears and all that. And then parents are called back to pay for the damages. So the head teacher recovers penye alikuwa amekopa, ama he couldn't account, him and the board couldn't account for something. They are able to recover, and this gone like nothing happened. So unfortunately, Alex, that is what has been happening. And me, for a long time, I saw that happen. And personally, let me say this, I'm not bragging. I didn't see how I was going to rise by becoming a school principal, because a school principal is a condemned thief in Kenya, and if investigated can be jailed for life. So anybody who knows a school principal anipigie simu nimwambie he or she proves to me that he has not been stealing from parents. Anybody kana uko kana ndugu yako ni school principal, I'm talking about our high school, hata wa primary wameambukizwa, especially our high school, anipigie simu nimwambie I can prove to him or her that he's a thief and that he has been stealing from the parents. So Story Tang is just one of them. And maybe it's going to expose a lot of things. But my solution to all this, Alex, I have said here and again, make all schools in Kenya day schools. Let parents pay nothing. Don't give money to the school principals. Pay school teachers. Pay the cook. By the way, the government still pays. These schools are given, the teachers are paid directly by the Teachers Service Commission. But these schools are given money to pay a bursar, to pay at least 3 security men, and I think they are given an allowance of about 5 to 10 supporting staff by the government na serikali. Wacha pesa ya wazazi na serikali. So we can keep that still. If the government still funds the paying of about 10 members of the support staff, and the government pays the teachers from the Teachers Service Commission, and the government buys stationery na vitabu kwa watoto, kwa nini wazazi wanalipa? The only thing is to get rid of the boarding schools, let children walk to the nearest schools, and then parents will not have to pay nothing to these school principals. And let me tell you, once you do that, nobody will not become a school principal in Kenya, because it will no longer matter whether you're a school principal, mshahara yako ita depend on your qualification. That's my take, Alex. So unfortunately, that's the state of our Kenyan schools.
So, Julia, do you want to say that close to 80% of principals live beyond their means?
I said 99%. Kama unajua mtu yote anipigie simu, I can prove to him that he's corrupt. And okay, you Alex na Njeru, si mnajua uko kwenu? Si mnawajua wa principals wa high school? Nataka muwafanyie uchunguzi, you find out what they own. And then you go look up the Teacher Service Commission. Let me tell you, kuna principals wanaendaga, kuna promotions at TSC zinaendaga I don't know kama zimebadilika, maybe they are changed. A long time I was there. When I was there, it was MNO, hakuna O, MNOPQ, QP, MNOQP, zinaendaga hivyo. So mtu wa P ndio wanaendaga they are in around to almost 200,000, and they are usually few in Kenya. They are very few. Most of the school principals wako kwa N. Na nimewambia kama gross yako inaendaga kitu 120,000 ukiwa kwa at the top N, hiyo ni gross. So gross are main without kama tax haijatolewa. Tax ikitolewa utapata kitu 80k ama 90k na uko na loans. Sasa niambie Njiru, kama uko na 80k in Kenya, how can you be driving a Prado? How can you be owning 3 apartment complexes in Nairobi? Ulichukua loan bank gani ndio ukajenga hiyo apartment na hiyo ukamaliza kulipa hizo loans? Na ukana afford kununua Prado? Njiru, find out, you know principals in your area, si ndio? Anza kuangalia kwa binoculars. Now I have told you how they earn. I don't think normally there's any principal who they take about 100k kama ni net, kama una loans na nini. 100k.
So in other words, to them mshahara is nothing.
They don't use it because, let me tell you, they don't use it. The parents pay so much money. So unaambiwa tunanunua basi ya milioni ngapi? Milioni 20. Na wazazi hatuna pesa, tunapewa mkopo na Equity na wapea mkopo. So wazazi start paying. Wazazi, they are never told when they finish paying the loan. Every child pays there for time, for forever. They continue paying for that loan. Wacha nikwambia, if you see a school principal saying akona ma projects kwa shule, huyo anaibia wazazi. Let me tell you, dawa hizo shule zikuwe za day. and children, parents should never pay anything. Do you know they corrupt them mpaka wakati wa uniform? Mimi mnajisikianga watoto wanachajua pesa ya uniform, alafu unaambiwa you cannot buy your uniform where you want. Ati there is a specific contractor where you are buying the uniform. You just hear story kama hizo?
Yeah, even in the primary school sasa kule tunafunza watoto wetu, si kuna pale naendeanga uniform.
Yeah, hiyo ni corruption. I'm telling you, inaitwa corruption.
You know, when I was entry to university this time, there is some funny university called Uzima in Kisumu. My nephew passed very well, got an A, but for some reason nowadays you're taken even to a private school, which the government doesn't even help you. You're called even to a private school, doesn't make sense. Anyway, that boy was called there and we took him. And we were forced to buy a stethoscope. You know, I bought that stethoscope from here and I took it back because I realized, okay, he's going to do medicine. It's okay. Let's just go there. We start first year. We were forced to buy a stethoscope at school at a whopping 23,000 Kenya shillings. Something that basically we get free from here. And I was like, okay, let me take even 10 other students. We were told no, specific ones, which were of lower quality, but the university is forcing that they must be bought. So this issue does not even run in private, it runs all the way. But the reason I brought that, Madam Julia, is you can see how impunity and corruption within the government has allowed impunity within even the stakeholders in the education sector. And now I'm wondering, you see, I think when I was in college, we used to go, and it's not a must that you were doing education. You could go during the holidays to Kitoka Mali to go. You can come and teach in high schools. You remember those days. And we never had quality assurance surveyors. I think this is a position that was introduced later on within the district level, apart from the district education officer and you know, the touch tutor, so on and so forth. I don't know if you remember those merits in terms of how the school education officers had. There is a position that was introduced called quality assurance. Do we still have it? And if we still have it, what is the purpose of the quality assurance officers if they allow such kind of magnanimity to continue? Julia.
Oh, sorry, nilikuwa nimetoka kidogo. Come again, Alex.
No, I was asking, we used to have, before we never used to have quality assurance officers. I think it was introduced, I don't know if it's Kibaki introduced it, but it was introduced later because when some of us worked, when we got Kimaliza College, tunakuja likizo tukifanya, we never used to have quality assurance officers. But later on, the quality assurance officers were introduced to the education sector as part of the officers within the provincial administration. Do we still have quality assurance officers? And if we do, what is their part when students are penalized? Are they part of it, or what is quality assurance when it comes to education sector?
I don't know. I don't think they do. They care. What happens, unfortunately, Alex, I don't know whether they used to be quality assurance. They were supposed to be inspecting and observing, making observations on even the teaching in the classrooms. But what happens, mimi si nimekuwa Kenya na nikafika mpaka deputy. Hii ofisi ya county director of education, si wako kwa hiyo county director of education. What happens?
Yeah.
Wanakujanga kwa hiyo mikutano hata ya board to come for allowances. I'm telling you, Alex, they never come to do anything that can build the school or improve the school. All the way from county director to yule mdogo sana. Wanakujanga kwa hiyo mkutano ndio wapewe, kwa sababu mikutano ya board inakuanga na allowance, so they come to collect allowances. Do you know they can even come and collect allowances and sign kwa basa na hajatendi mkutano? So you're talking about somebody doing his work as a quality assurance? They won't. I'm telling you. And it is another thing. It is high time, Alex, the parents of Kenya knew their rights, because as for Kenya, they can change the schools. They can decide we are not doing this and we will not do and we shall not do. We are not paying for this and we shall not pay. They'll get away with it. They'll take over. But now, parents, I was giving an example some time back here, how parents of Alliance High School let bullying go on for a long, long time. Alliance, I'm talking about Alliance Boys High School. Mnakumbuka siku ya Alliance ilikuwa na scandal, sijui mtoto alipigwa karibu akufe ama alikufa. The child was,
I remember that.
yes, by the other students. And it was said, it was reported that one has been going on forever. And the parents wanaitangwa wanaambiwa kama utaki hii shule toa mtoto wako upeleke kwingine. And because the parents wako na hiyo class issue that my child is in Alliance, wananyamaza tu. So those children have been bullied. These are top schools where children have been bullied and bullied. There's a school in Mount Kenya region, I think it's Kagumo High School or somebody, where mtoto alivunjwa mkono. A boy held the hand of a child and broke it. See, it was an accident, they were playing football or anything, and deliberately broke it. So these things have happened in this, especially these big schools, and the parents are bullied. Na wanaambiwa kwamba kama utaki issue, unaona issue is too much for you mtoto wako, and because our wazazi wako na class issue, they just tolerate all that nonsense, and the schools get away with it. Where wanaendanga meeting wanaambiwa this year tunapeleka watoto wetu, tunapeleka walimu wetu ng'ambo, tunataka kila mzazi atoe 10,000. Alex, wewe uko Kenya na hujai kanyanga kwa airport JKA na unaambiwa tunataka 10,000 tupeleke walimu wetu ng'ambo, and the parents do that. And nawaambiwa tunatafuta minsco for this, our children will pass. I'm asking myself, isn't it the right of these children to be taught? Is it not the right of these children to be taught? That's what I'm asking myself.
I think, Julia, we commercialized our education long time ago. And I think the moment we agreed during the grading system when we were young, that schools like Mosoch Academy, so on and so forth, were the best performing. I think that we went into a wrong trajectory. If you look at it from all corners, I don't think even today we need to continue having academies, so on and so forth. Why do I say so? Because I think there is no way, unless we have a mojo man, somebody like Matiang'i again. I'm not saying person like, I don't say Matiang'i himself, like a person willing by force, by fire, to reform the education sector without fearing the repercussion. But I think the mess so far that is after, the last administration went, is even more worse. And I think one of the things we are fighting in terms of, even if we want to reform this country, is we are electing cartels again. Now let me back up my point here. For instance, Boni Alwale is introducing to us Panyako. Panyako himself is a person who entirely campaigned for Ruto because he had a deal with Ruto. Okay, whether he got it or not, whether he is pretending or not, but let me tell you, Panyako was handsomely paid by Ruto. If he was greedy and he never was satisfied, Ruto was not going to pay everybody according to what they wanted. Once he became a president, he needed a breather, because when they were campaigning, he was feeding these people like crazy. Why? Because he needed to be a president. Once he became a president, he stopped feeding these people and they started complaining. So for today, somebody like Khalwale to come and do what? And give us Panyako, and after giving us Panyako and say, yeah, and he's criticizing Ruto. And these are the people who actually campaigned for Ruto like crazy and ended up, today we might be, blaming people who voted for, or parties or people who gave Ruto votes in Luyaland. But don't you remember Halwale boasts and says, I'm the one who brought Ruto to Luyaland. Now all of a sudden, how does he become his critic? You brought him, let him work for 5 years. Don't lie to us that all of a sudden, you see, I think we need to start punishing people who keep on shifting their games in the middle of the, shifting the rules in the middle of the game. And I mean, if the whole group is going to act that way, trust me, now the people who were anti-Ruto from before are not going to look like they were the true reformers who wanted to reform that country. I am so sad, like Panyako is on that, ballot. Trust me, this guy was a pain in the ass for us who watched what happened in last election. And it will be unfortunate if we don't point it out. Panyako and Khalwale were the people who are making the loudest noise. Least we forget the loudest noise over there. And they have boasted over time that it is through them that Ruto got. And they were telling us that because of them, they are going to get the 30% of the government that Ruto promised them. And once that was not delivered, that is when they started throwing tantrums. I don't believe Panyako should get that seat, even though he's coming from a favorable party. I don't think even if we want the Luyas to manage their party, I should sacrifice my own principles and support Panyako just because the conditions look so bad on our side and we really want to win. I think let anybody win that seat, but not Panyako. If you remember that election and how this guy used to be, I think, the chair of the nursing ABCD, something of the sort like that. He was bought when there was remember when Ruto came in, if you can remember very well, when the doctors went on strike. And I think this we forget so fast. When the doctors went on strike, remember early when Ruto came into, and we were agitating for the doctors, remember? And what we said was, remember the CB, was it the CB, whatever the negotiation that they had, the suspension name they have, whatever they negotiated, this is something that they did not agree into. The government forced them, which was the Uhuru government, which Ruto was part of it, which he cannot escape. And they were told, we are not able to afford this, please take this. So wakaichukua na roho tu kwa, okay, let's save, because the government has said it does not have. Later on, the government has refused to honor it. And once it refused to honor it, then Panyako goes behind again, renegotiates with Ruto. But on top here in the media, that is what we call consented, manufactured consent. I think you should read a book called Manufactured Consent, whereby people are so bold when it comes to press conferences, and you may believe what they are saying, and you think they are part and parcel of us. People like Sosion, they acted all the way like that for years, and you thought they were pro-people when they were in the unions. But once, they got out of the seats of the union, what did they become? If you look Sosion today, you wouldn't believe that he was agitating for Nat. He literally killed Nat. And you know that because you're still a teacher, Julia, you know that. And when you see him in the morning shows, when he speaks as if this guy has never been a teacher. He doesn't know what a teacher is. He doesn't understand the traumas that teachers have gone through because of the pay slip. And that is the same thing with Panyako. Let us not promote this man in any way. He got paid. He campaigned for Ruto. He cannot come from behind and you expect that when he goes to parliament, he will still not have a deal with Ruto. They will still work together. Now, the other thing that is sad, and I think this one, you're going to kill me, all of you. And I think the only two people who spoke about it today, I saw maybe yesterday for those who are in Kenya, it's the Luya Kisi meeting that happened in Nairobi last night, the day before last night. And that meeting surprised me because I didn't expect that they will have a meeting. I had a feeling that they need to sit down and iron out issues that are really confusing Kenyans. And because the rhetoric that is coming from the mountain is very dangerous if not countered as soon as possible. If this kind of entitlement or the kind of bulldozing that is coming is not going to be curtailed. I think let us agree to what Shiko said earlier, that there is no need for the people to go to the election, because I think we have given. I disagree mostly with, I think 99.999% with Francis, but I think Francis has had a consistent point here. I think where we are headed to, if you don't look, in that meeting where the Luyas and the Kisses met, and the question was, we want to get Ruto out, but it looks like we were in a formation that we thought we were equals, but we are no longer equals. What is happening, they can sit in their boardroom and say, Muturi, we are not going to field a candidate here. But when it comes to other areas, they don't care. That is what the Luyas brought on table. Now, and the Kisses brought to the Luyas that, okay, this guy has said we should never tape. We should never tape. That is what he said. And to make it more worse, there was a clip, I think he misspoke. Whether he misspoke or not, you will be held accountable for some things. And it was like, sasa huyu Uhuru anafikiria your statement was so volatile to these two communities. What I'm saying is this. I mean, let us agree. Let us agree, yes, you love your person, and we don't want to interfere with that. But continue loving him that way. But let's say this. Let me conclude this. If we get to 2026 and you see us fold our hands and say, you know what, let this community pay its due once and for all so that it can be nationalistic. It is not because everybody behaved that way, but because the leadership and the majority of the people from the mountain did not understand that Kenya belongs to everybody. And everybody that wanted to sacrifice to put this country forward was not get direction from the mountain. The mountain is not Kenya, and Kenya is not the mountain. If we are to save ourselves from what we brought ourselves into, I think, even if I've been having a very, very soft spot on Gachagua, I think the first person that must go is Gachagua before we take Ruto out. Gachagua will single-handedly, with his rhetoric, make Ruto re-elected. And I used to deny that, but I am seeing it more and more. And it has become so volatile because before we were managing that, oh, it's going to end. It's a rhetoric we loved because we say this is a rhetoric we love. But I think we are damaging ourselves. We have taken the trust that communities could work together again and build a new Kenya. What has come out is that, you know what, this is the same community that has brought us over the years the same problem. From Kenyatta era senior, it brought Moi, who served for 24 years because we did not understand. And again, they created Ruto because they wanted the president by all necessary means. Let me tell you, it was unattainable, unbelievable that Ruto, in fact, many of us could not believe that, there was a deal between Ruto and Uhuru. It happened for 8 years. And in the end, Ruto ascended to the presidency through the mountain. That one, people need to take accountability and say, were it not through Uhuru? Yes, situations forced. We cannot deny. But again, why again allow him to go ahead after one term? If we were to take accountability, I think we will, we need to have a conversation and say, you know what? I think as a country, we are offending. But if we go with this entitlement that we want to, Matiang'i said something that Abusing right now is not as a badge or a sign that you are popular. Talk to people. Well, I thought that is not aggressive enough, but I think people are disgruntled. If you don't listen to what other leaders are saying, if you don't, you are not going to work alone. You see what Western is saying, you see what Kiss is saying. I have not heard Vizuri what Nini is saying, the coastal region, what it is saying very well, because they have not come out of very well. And we cannot allow as early as possible to be deflected in the manner that I am seeing. If these by-elections, it's going to be about DCP becoming more popular than others, I think by the time it has acted like it's popular, you will find situational ethics, a catch-22, whereby some people will be forced to work with some people, not because they ever desired to, but because they have no option and they understand the consequences of not being in power. Let me repeat, some people are going to be forced to work with other groupings which they never thought they will work with, not because they believe that these people are going to be, but because they understand the consequences of never being in power at all. The Luos today, they are in a situation they are today because it reached a point somebody was saying, if you are not a shareholder, if you never voted, you will never be in the military, you will never get these jobs, you will never get these jobs. Na tumeweka mitego, hamutaingia State House. They decided, I think that is the route to go. Whether we like it or not, I don't like how it happened. I'm not a supporter of it, but somehow, whether not outrightly, there is a benefit they are having. Whether not everybody, but some of them are having it. Because in the end of the day, politics is about power, and whatever share of power you have a little bit, it makes a little bit sense. You can't be opposition since 1963 until 2025, and you expect to continue. They have a valid point, whether we like it or not. Now, the problem is this. We have seen the effect of the realignment and how this can cause our true allies to run away, and yet we are continuing. That is what is paining me. Trust me, Njiro. Let's talk to our leaders and tell them, you know what? You all live in Karen. You all drive big cars. You all don't bear the pain that mtu ako Karatina, mtu ako Keroka, mtu ako Migori, mtu ako Rongo, mtu ako, Tiriki, yeah? Mtu mwenye mahali yako, mahali msimamo wako. I think that is the conversation we can have. But from the rhetoric that is going around, from the meetings and everything, I think the fear of Gachagua as a person, I think it is going to affect us, whether we like it or not. Poleni for saying that. I think we will disagree on that, but it's a debating point. However, we all have our choices.
Jiro, can I niseme? Jiro, wacha niseme hivi. Alex, mumeona Gen Z jana wamekuwa na truck zao, wameanza kuzunguka na wamekuwa na cabinet wao ani wa kutoka mlima. Mtasema nini hapo? Haya, ingine nataka kusema, nimeangalia parliament wako na bill wanataka kupass ati kama UDA wakikosa kupita kwa wakikosa nini vote this election, na huko kwa chama ya UDA wanaweza kusukua watu wako kwa hiyo chama waongeze vote. Hiyo bill iko tu kwa parliament. Mnajua hivyo? Kuko bill Ruto anataka kuweka. Ati akikosa kuwa na enough vote anaweza kusukua watu kwa chama yake aongeze ile vote. Number 2, kuko nini nimeona hapo. Kuko ingine bill ingine anataka kuweka pale. Sasa vile nitasema, hata tukisema Gachagua nini, Ruto anakuja na style ingine jiro. Ati apitize watu wako kwa chama, akikosa kuingia asague watu wako kwa chama, wakuwe kwa parliament, wasaguliwe. Na hiyo mkatae kabisa, hiyo mkatae kabisa. Sauli, hiyo bill inakuja. Kwa hivyo watu wakuwe sawa sawa. Gen Z wanasema sio wa kabila, lakini wamekuwa na candidate na ni wa kutoka mlima. Sasa tutasema nini? Hiyo tu ndio point nilikuwa nataka kuweka jiro.
Jeremora, tufunge kituo sasa. Tafadhali.
Yes, sawa.
Yeah, please. Good night all. Some of us tumeisha